Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Allotment Dram. This is a series of short videos where we sit and talk about different whiskies and the surroundings of our North London allotments. You join me here today on what's been a little bit of a grey sort of day, start of September here, starting to feel the first sort of pang of autumn in the air, quite possibly. But I've got on with quite a lot of stuff and picked a few things, so the main thing being some more of these apples, which just coming from the tree almost right behind me, still probably at least that amount on there again. One from the other tree, which these are a little bit bigger, really crisp, tart apples. So most of those not quite ready yet, but this one sort of came off quite happily. And also a fig. This got the fig tree, which we put in like 2 or 3 years ago. Not at anywhere near full power yet, but giving us 1 or 2 figs a week, which is very nice. Can't really complain about that. But while that's all very interesting, you didn't tune in to hear about whether in North London or what I've picked from the allotments here. I'm sure you tuned in to hear about some whiskey. And what is today's whiskey, I hear you ask? Well, it's an American whiskey, and it's Angel's Envy, which is a port barrel finish from Kentucky. So it's a bourbon from Kentucky, founded by a gentleman called Lincoln Henderson, whose signature appears on the bottle here. And he founded Angel's Envy in 2006, so way ahead of the sort of craft distilling, artisan distilling curve that has obviously swept through the States and has since gone all around the world actually. So he and several others sort of really pioneered this movement in the United States, and as I say, 2006. So the distillery itself is in a lovely old building. I think it used to be an old electrical sort of generator sort of house or something like that. It looks very industrial anyway, built in the 1920s, and it's now been repurposed as the distillery in Louisville in Kentucky. And it sits actually on the famous Whiskey Row, which is a very famous street that takes in West Main Street and East Main Street in Louisville. And really it's where, very historic sort of area, and it's where a lot of distilleries had, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a lot of the whiskey companies had their offices in Louisville on Whiskey Row. And this was because it's very close actually to the Ohio River. So if your geography of the United States is not very good, then the Ohio River forms the boundary between Kentucky and Ohio, fairly obviously, and straight across from Louisville, if you go straight across the river, is Indiana, but it actually flows down into the Mississippi. So what it allowed the whiskey companies to do was, by being positioned there in Louisville, it allowed them, back in those days when we don't have the transportation that we do now, it allowed them to transport things in up the river, and then also take their whiskey out through the United States through the river system. So fell on disrepair, has now been renovated, and is now like a really quite vibrant sort of community with 7 or 8 brands having distilleries or brand homes on Whiskey Row. So well worth a visit. I was very lucky to go sort of when I went to Kentucky back in May this year. But what can I tell you about this, about Angel's Envy? Well, this has been matured in American white oak barrels and then finished for around 6 months in the port wine barrels from Portugal, the Douro Valley in Portugal. And what they do is they put together batches really quite small, sort of 8 to 12 barrels at a time, to create batches of this, the Angel's Envy port wine barrel finish. And it's bottled at 43.3% ABV, which is 86.6 in the the old proof system, which they still use in the States. And I got this for around $40 actually, from the distillery shop. Very nice, lots of very nice things there. Could have given the credit card a proper thrashing in there, but I resisted and just bought this one. And in the UK you obviously pay a little bit more for the import and so on, and can be a bit hard to find, but it's around what, 55 to 60 pounds when you find it in the UK, but obviously in the States say about 40 bucks. So very, very good. But I think that's probably enough chat about Angel's Envy and Whiskey Row and all the rest of it. I think we should probably have a little taste, shouldn't we? As you can see, we've had did a tasting that I included this in, so this a fair chunk of this is gone. Lovely colour, look at that. This lovely sort of coppery gold, almost amber sort of colour. Okay, just pop that back on and let's have a smell. Oh yes, absolutely delicious. Just sort of leaping out of the glass. Very, very nice. There's lots of vanilla. There's coconut, there's like a sort of dark cherry, some milk chocolate. You can tell there's a bit of like oaky sort of woody spice under there as well. And this might sound a bit weird, but there's something quite bready, like bread-like in here. It's almost like toasted bread when you've put it in the toaster under the grill for a short period. Yeah, very, very nice. I think we should have a taste. Oh my, yes, very, very good. Lots of sweetness. So this is like vanilla, fudge, toffee. This sort of like creamed coconut. These dark sweet cherries. The milk chocolate that I mentioned earlier. Also some sort of caramel, something like that. You know, so really, really interesting. Then you've got this sort of toasted bread and this quite drying oak spices, quite tannic sort of towards the end of that. Once I've swallowed and it's just sort of sat there, it becomes quite drying. You feel it on the inside of your cheeks, this dryness. But yeah, very, very nice, very expressive. You're quite bold, you know, considering, you know, 43.3%. Normally you get this boldness, sort of, not brashness, but yeah, just this boldness and this richness from something that's a little bit higher in the strength. But let's have another taste. So much going on there. Now, you might think, well, those tasting notes sound quite like a regular bourbon, but what is this port cask giving to it? I mean, I can't really see. I mean, I suppose, you know, if I held it up to the light, there might be a slight pinkish tint, but not really. I would say it's this sort of red fruit, so that these sort of dark, ripe, sweet cherries, the sort of notes that's coming through. And I'm also getting a little bit of, now, almost like a dried apricot, you know, which is, you know, slightly unusual tasting note for a bourbon. But yeah, so this lovely vanilla, got this toasted bread, you've got the creamed coconut, these dark cherries, the milk chocolate, drying oak spices, a little bit of caramel, and then this sort of dried apricot, all with a little bit of like sprinkling of peppery sort of heat at the end. But yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, I'm not sure, I think they say this is about 6 years of age or so. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, but I'm pretty sure that's what they say, or what the guy told me in the shop. It was a few months ago now, so I may be incorrect. But yeah, lovely. And you know, obviously if you're in the States, then you can find it a little bit easier than you can here in the UK. But yeah, I would search it out. You know, if you're a bourbon fan, I mean, this would make a lovely, like Manhattan or something like that, where you actually have the cocktail cherry as part of your garnish. It would really supplement and complement that really nicely. So yeah, fabulous. I think from myself and the Angel's Envy port wine barrel finish, we will say farewell, and we hope you've enjoyed listening for that 10 minutes or so, and we'll see you for the next Allotment Dram very soon. Cheers.